Howdy, howdy.
Howdy!
And welcome to But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast where we usually probe supposed alien events to decide if they really did involve aliens, but today is a special occasion. On special occasions, we probe more widely paranormal events. I'm hosting this week, and I'm Kev. Alongside me is Granville Moonwalker. Today is Moonwalker's birthday. Because it's your birthday, Granville, don't be afraid. You may recall forcing me to do shot after shot after shot on my birthdays. Well, I'm going to give you the choice I never had.
I think you'll find I gave you ample opportunity to not do a shot.
You did not.
You just had to get the answers right. And when you got them right, I did a shot.
We've recorded many an episode where you've just been like at the end of a sentence, give you a shot.
So you're clearly forgetting the fact that the last one I was
the quiz
nice and kind.
With impossible answers. You were not kind. You asked me questions about actors. I don't know actors.
I asked you what was left and right on a fucking boat. It's not my fault you got that wrong.
Port and starboard.
Missed the boat, man.
Right, Mr. Moonwalker. I'm not going to beat around the bush with you. The envelope you will find beside you contains a curse of sorts. Granville, I'm going to give you the choice I never had. I have a little bit of important information for you. It is said that you should never read what is in that envelope out loud. Today, you have the choice to read what is in that envelope, a curse, out loud, or you can neck one of these lovely shots sat beside you here. I'm going to give you the choice I never had. If you'd like to make your choice.
I'm going to open the envelope.
Your envelope. Oh, son.
Let's open this thing up, shall we?
He's refusing the shot, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone not included within those labels. You know you got to read it out loud, right?
I'm making my choice. The choice that you never had.
He's done a shot. What made you do the shot?
Turned it round and found that it was originally written in either Japanese or Asian. Not messing.
Let's take it back a little bit.
Not taking that risk.
And introduce ourselves to a Japanese gentleman named Saijo Yaso. Saijo was born on the 15th of January 1892 in Shinjuku, Japan, and later lived as an adult in France for a period. Saijo worked as a university professor for a number of years, having previously graduated from the University of Sorbonne in Gay, Paris. Saijo was also somewhat of a wordsmith, a Japanese poet. Saijo tended to write children's nursery rhymes and had completed about 26 works of poetry by 1919. Saijo is considered one of the world's leaders in children's lyrics during this time period. Before we continue, Granville, again, I'm going to give you the choice I never had. If you'd like to make your choice is you read the curse out loud or you do a shot. You will notice I've put a protection rule in there.
Oh, so I either read it out loud again or do a shot for being overconfident. Take the shot.
Any thoughts on that last section? Japanese children's poet?
I have a theory in my head already. Either one of these poems children would read out loud and mysteriously not go missing, or things would happen.
Right.
Or something happened to him. So he decided to put out another piece and cursed that piece so that when people read it out loud, it fucked them up in some way, shape or form.
You put out a piece to curse a piece.
Peace.
Despite being somewhat prolific and successful, not too much is known about Saijo. Records weren't as good back then as they are now, but when Saijo was 27 years of age, Saijo is said to have experienced a great loss. That loss is believed to have been a passing away. Some say of Saijo's father, whilst others say Saijo's sister, but regardless, a sad and untimely passing.
Did that awaken his Mangekyo?
I don't know what that is.
I know.
Saijo, like many before and since, threw himself into his work. Saijo had been working on his 27th collection, which was titled Gold Dust, and there was space for another poem. Saijo wrote. The poem that came out, though, was unlike anything that Saijo had ever written before. Now, Granville, I'm going to give you the choice. I never had. He's already doing the shot before I finish the words.
So do we think at this point he was... You know how they say sometimes just to sit at a desk with a bit of paper and just start writing?
Yep, ghostwriting.
Yeah. Do you think he was doing that and maybe something took over and wrote through him?
That's a... possibly.
Or simply because he was grief-stricken, the work that came out was not tainted, but...
Dark. He was in a dark place, having dark thoughts, etc. Yeah. I'd just like to rewind to your first suggestion. If you died and you were a spirit, and the only way you could make contact with the living world was through when someone was ghostwriting, you could take control and control what they'd write, what would you write?
Are you still alive?
No. Oh, yes, sorry. I am, yeah. I'm living forever.
Right. I would write, Greybeard is a prick. He is the biggest prick with the greyest of beards. And this should forever be known.
I have a feeling what you'd actually do
Even
is just
if you're
write,
dead,
you just
I would
like
still have the same thing.
draw pictures of cocks over and over. This is your chance to say something really important. Communicate with the living world. The moment comes and you just can't help yourself. Dick. That's Dick.
Nah. I'd write, Kevin is a prick. No matter what they try to write there in exams, Kevin is a prick.
A star.
Kevin is a prick.
The teacher's trying to mark it.
Yep.
Writes underneath it, Kevin is a prick.
Literally the world is covered and then people are like trying to find out who Kevin is. Who is this Kevin that people keep writing about? Was he really a prick? Yes. Would be the answer.
Yes, he was. Thinking about that last segment.
Yes, he is a prick.
You've heard the curse of 27 before, right? 27 years old, about to be 27 works. Not to spoil where this one is going. I think I've just cracked this one. Anyhow, that 1919 poem was so dark that people didn't or couldn't read it all the way through. The poem simply disappeared into Saijo's collection and wasn't seen for 50 years until 1974. In 1974, a movie that translates to the title To Die in the Countryside, written and directed by Teriyama Shuji, was released. Shuji had been heavily inspired by that poem, it turns out, which was called Tomino's Hell. And at some point, Shuji had read the poem in its entirety. What do you think happened to Shuji?
He then went on to write and direct a film about it.
And he lived
To Die
happily
in
ever
the
after.
Countryside. So, do you think people couldn't read it all the way through because they were used to his original work?
Because someone
And
had
then-
written all over it, Kevin is a dick.
You clearly can't read. Because Kevin is a prick.
It's because there's loads of pictures of dicks all over it as well. Someone else got to it. Can't think who that would have been.
I mean, we got the same idea. So do you think people didn't read it all the way through simply because it wasn't like his other work, so they didn't enjoy
Too disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean...
Found it too dark. Same way that I love Al Pacino as an actor and a man. I love you, Al. But I refuse to watch the film Jiggly.
Right.
And I refuse to watch any film is done with 50 Cent.
You can't stand 50 Cent.
I don't know. It's not that I can't stand 50 Cent. It's just the fact that I rate Al Pacino at such a level above them.
You don't want to see him tarnish himself.
The same way that if you look at the works of Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, people always put them against each other. They're both great. But I think De Niro marred his legacy a lot more for me by doing films like Meet the Fockers.
Yeah, but he also made probably more money in that film than he'd ever made in his life.
So he's sitting on his money he made,
throne in his mansion laughing.
Oh, he can be happy all he wants. I don't care about his happiness. I care about the work of art, goddammit.
I feel like we've got massively sidetracked here. I can't even remember where we started.
Yeah, the poem wasn't like his others, so they couldn't read it. What happened to Shuji? Let me guess. Something befell him once he turned 27, if he wasn't 27 already.
Not quite, but you're not far off.
He read the poem out loud. Did whatever happened only affect him, or did it affect others?
We're going to get into that.
Okay.
Shortly after that movie's completion, Terayama Shuji sadly passed away. Shuji had been 47 years of age. That is a young age to pass. Was Tomino's hell responsible? The official cause of death was liver or kidney disease, depending upon your source, but you can hardly write died of a curse on a death certificate, can you? Remember, all of this is taking place before the modern day, so I'd like to get your thoughts on what is going to happen next, but before I do, again, I'm going to give you the choice. I never had, and he's already finished the shot. My gosh.
So he died at 47 of liver or kidney disease.
Yeah, and I might come back to that a little bit later, but yeah.
I was going to say, was he diagnosed with that before he made the film?
Not that I could find, no.
So it just randomly kind of appeared, or...
Yeah, basically.
After.
Like I said, I will circle back on that later.
The more I see the words Tomino's hell, the more it rings a bell.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the most famous curses there is, so that doesn't surprise me with all the Japanese anime and stuff you watch.
Don't you mean anime?
Yeah, that stuff.
Anime.
Anima.
So, this is one of those things where loads of people have read this out loud and tested it.
So we'll get into some of that as well.
Things have clearly not happened to them.
We'll get into that. But jumping ahead, we're not in the modern day yet. You see, this was all taking place before the age of the internet. But eventually, that is exactly where the poem would end up. The internet. Before then, it was only in Japanese publications, and you'd have to search through old library archives, and even then, people probably wouldn't realise what they were looking at. They'd just die. But eventually, the works made their way to the internet and were translated. Basically, a Japanese writer published a book in either 1998 or 2004 mentioning that if you read Tomino's Hell out loud, you die. And everyone in the town it was published in then, of course, started reading the poem and dying. Japanese students in particular started filming themselves reading it, allegedly, truthfully dying shortly thereafter. The story of that was shared on online message boards where English-speaking folk translated it. Now, once this thing made its way onto the internet, what do you think happened?
This is literally one of those terrible films that came out in the 2000s where like The Ring and The Eye and Ringu.
Wow.
Not Ringu. One Missed Call.
Wow.
Except this is more like the terrible Western version rather than the original creepy as fuck Eastern versions.
So you feel it's getting slightly bastardized?
Very bastardized. I'm still not going to read it out loud. But at the same point, it is just like The Ring, where they say if you watch this video, you'll die within 7 days.
It could have been an inspiration.
And you could literally be reading not a script, but a synopsis to a film or anything to me right now. But I'm still not reading that out loud just yet.
I'd just like to add that this is a true story. I'm not making this up. This little...
I mean, you could have got it from like just a Japanese or Chinese film there.
There are
No, it's
lots of
Japan,
sources
wasn't
on this one. This little cursed poem has gone slow burn viral. People all over the likes of 2channel, the older and popular Japanese message board originally, and then the likes of Reddit and YouTube begun reading the poem. This encouraged other people to do it, and it went on and on. The results were deadly. A college student read the poem out loud, and a week later she died. Another student wrote an essay on the poem. That student passed days later. Users on 2channel would post and say they're fine straight after reading, only to completely disappear, never to be seen on the forums again. Reddit user Misiko Caracozo read the poem 5 years ago, immediately before their water heating system blew up. They haven't been seen for 5 years. Reddit user No Presentation 6 read the poem aloud 3 years ago, got a migraine, and then saw Tomino before waking up in hospital. Twitter user IDK I'm Hangry commented on a Folklore Thursday tweet of the poem, saying that they'd read it out loud on the 5th of December 2021. That was their last tweet. Now, he's done the shot before I asked him. I was going to give you the choice. I never had.
So these are definitely not just dormant accounts. Clearly.
I've read them up. Yeah, they've just disappeared.
So the problem that I had,
Yes.
and it only dawned on me while you were going through that, is either you want me to die or you want me to die.
Amazing. I mean, that's irrelevant, really, isn't it?
So either you've read it out loud yourself, and therefore...
I ain't doing that shit.
I mean, it depends how long ago you wrote this. Shit could still happen to you. Or you want me to die.
You end up reading it, you've had enough shots, you drop down dead a week later, I'm in court and they're playing this in court. You want me to die? It proves nothing!
I mean, I could be driving in my car later. All of a sudden I go to use my brakes, they don't work. And they come back to this episode.
Irrelevant. There was no plot.
So originally they were posted on Japanese message boards and things like that.
The judges are like, you made him read the curse. No, I gave him the choice
that I never
had. Sorry, you were saying?
So they were posted on Japanese
Originally,
and they were translated by
So this
someone.
all took place in Japan, obviously, and then it got onto the internet and was translated by English-speaking people.
So, two things.
Yep.
Was it translated correctly?
I will touch on that as well, but good thinking.
2, did Tomino die before people started dying after reading it?
I may touch upon that later as well, because we haven't really clarified who Tomino is at this point.
No, we haven't. And this person saw Tomino.
I mean, all we know is that, I guess, from what we discussed, it sounded like Tomino is probably some sort of young kid.
Do you say...
It's just the impression that I'm getting at this point.
Who wrote this?
The poet, the children's...
What was his name?
Saijo, wasn't it? I'm trying to think of his surname.
Yes.
Sorry, I've forgotten his surname.
That's true. Because people are saying, do you have a picture of Tomino?
Saijo Yasso. That was it, sorry. I couldn't remember his surname.
Because people are saying they saw Tomino, but if you have no idea what Tomino looks like, how do you know you saw Tomino? Unless he had a name badge?
If you see a, dead-looking, pale Japanese kid that wasn't there a second ago sort of glitching towards you...
I'm not going to automatically assume it's Tomino.
Especially
not if I'm in Japan.
But just after you've read this poem about Tomino...
I've got no idea what he looks like.
So you read a poem about Tomino, and we'll cover the contents later, but you read this poem that you don't know what's in it yet, and then you see this person shortly after, you're not connecting them.
No, because we have no idea who Tomino is. It's called Tomino's Hell, but who is Tomino?
Well,
he was written by this poet, but did the poet put a visual to the poem? Did he describe what Tomino looks like?
So
Tomino could be blonde for all we know.
I'll show you.
Tomino could be 6'5". He could be 4'1".
He could be 6'5", actually, and you'll find out why later.
Could be 3'2". Could have red hair. Could look like Chucky.
You're asking too many questions.
I'm not. I'm stating facts. We don't know what he looks like. So the fact that they said I saw him, you don't know you saw him unless he told you. And therefore you heard him.
It all makes sense.
I'm still not reading it.
Having been written in the throes of tragedy, it is said that reading this work of dark art aloud can bestow personal tragedy upon the reader, not just death. More physical symptoms that can be developed after reading Tomino's Hell can include, on the milder end of the scale, a headache, panic attacks, a growing sense of dread, an irregular heartbeat, and death. More severe symptoms can include family tragedy, losing loved ones, for example, and stepping on Lego.
See, I can't read this now. It's giving you a scale, isn't it? It's like, if you read this, you could walk out of a door and just, clip your hip on the door frame. You might stub a toe. Might get hit by a car. Plane might land on you.
Donnie Darko.
You might get hit in the balls by a football. But then, for it to turn around and say, could include family tragedy, losing loved ones. So, what I'm gauging by this is that you want me to die, or you want one of my family members to die.
Your mum's been a naughty girl.
But I think we've had this conversation before where you kind of made a deal with the devil, but someone in your family died, but you didn't know which one it was.
Yeah.
You're essentially giving me this option. So read this. Either you or someone close to you is going to die.
I'll plead the fifth.
Kev wants me to die, everyone. Or someone in my family.
Fifth.
And he's apparently my best friend. Now you understand why if I died and could only communicate through writing, I would write Kev as a prick.
Completely justified.
Turns out I read it out loud at the end, I die. This is how I come back and start writing Kev as a prick everywhere.
The judge is in court making some notes at trial.
Kevin, are you guilty? Kev is a prick.
But I get off on a technicality because he hasn't said I'm guilty.
I can choose when to
I'm
write.
legally a prick. Right, we're nearly at the end of this probe. Now, today, I have many times given you the choice. I never had. But as you've been a little punk, I'm taking that choice away from you. But I'm a good friend, so I'm going to share the curse with you. That's right, we are going to have a little read together. If you don't want to hear this, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone not included within those labels, skip forward a few minutes, folks. This is completely legitimate. We are about to read the curse, aren't we, Granville? Sit back and listen as I let Moonwalker happily start this curse. This is definitely Moonwalker reading live. If you'd like to take the envelope, Mr. Moonwalker.
I mean, you've got it here, haven't you?
I have. That's for me, though. 1 second.
His older sister, vomit, bed blood. His younger sister, vomit, bed fire. And the Tomino, vomit, bed glass, biz. Tomino fell into hell alone. Hell is wrapped in darkness, and even the flower don't bloom. Is the person with the whip, Tomino, older sister.
I wonder whose blood is on it. Hit, without hitting. Familiar hells.
One
Road. Would you lead him to the dark,
hell,
to the sheep of gold, to the
bush.
warbler? I wonder how much he put into the leather pocket for the preparation of the journey in the familiar.
Hell,
Spring is coming, even in the forest and the stream, even in the stream of the dark.
hell,
The
bush.
warbler in the birdcage, the sheep in the wagon, tears in the eyes of cute.
Tomino,
Cry,
bush.
warbler. Toward the raining forest, he shouts that he misses his little.
Sister.
The crying echo reverberates throughout.
Hell,
The fox Pinoy blooms, circling around hell's 7 mountains and 7 streams. The lonely journey of
Tomino.
If they're in,
Hell,
bring them to me. The needle of the graves I won't pierce with the red needle in the milestones of little.
Tomino.
The curse started getting me at the end there. If you'd like to...
How many episodes did you scan through to get those words?
I'll be honest, that was obviously you reading, but if I had have made that myself, it would have taken me a couple of days to put together what I put together. And I had it planned out to do the whole thing, but it would have taken me about 6 months. I went through every single episode and had it pinpointed where you said each word. Allegedly. But obviously I didn't because you read that live.
Yeah, so 2 shots for being cocky, eh? I have seen that picture before.
Yeah.
That's a pretty freaky picture, to be fair.
It is, it really is.
But at the same time, it's one of those things where I'm looking at it now, but then if I was to, like, if that was in my subconscious later, that would freak me out because you just see that staring at you. It's the same thing with the Moomins. If you've ever seen the TV show The Moomins, there's one episode with these weird little creepy creatures in. I can't remember what the hell they were called, but they had no facial features, just eyes, and they all just kind of moved towards you and they didn't blink. And that episode freaked me the fuck out. I had a nightmare about it at the time. I think I was only like 9 or 10.
So what do you think it means?
I was too busy laughing to read what the actual poem said.
Do you want me to pause for a second whilst you read it?
Yeah, go for it. I have no fucking idea. Like, poetry isn't for me. I don't mind the odd simple poems, but it's too much.
It's definitely not a children's poem,
No.
is it?
It's far too much going on. I mean...
So what...
So his sister vomited blood, which, fair enough, I mean, that's not fucking nice.
There's clear suffering going on with the sisters, isn't there?
Yeah, his other one vomited fire, which, again, not bloody nice. But... would you rather vomit blood, vomit fire, or vomit glass beads?
I'd rather vomit fire. I'm
I
a
was about to
dragon,
say, to be
biatch.
fair, it depends if the glass beads are broken,
I'm a Targaryen.
how big they are.
Sod controlling dragons. I am a dragon.
Do you reckon it's more a poem about illness?
Possibly. There is lots of suffering and darkness in
Yeah.
there. It could be about someone on their way to die. Yeah, that's an interpretation.
And Tomino is actually the poet.
Maybe, yeah.
He fell into hell alone. Those around him.
Why is he
or
going to hell?
The loss that he'd suffered, they'd gone, and now he is left alone and feels like he is in hell because he's alone.
Yeah.
Like, he's wrapped in darkness, flowers don't bloom. Is the person with the whip his older sister?
Some dark things are coming to my mind there. Is this like a child who was in a very difficult family background? I don't want to go into too much detail there, but then they lashed out as a result of it and they're going to hell for what they did in retaliation?
Possible. But is that a spirit talking through him while he was ghostwriting? Or is it his writing? You don't know.
We will never know, will we?
I mean, if it's a ghost writing, then fair play. Well, not fair play, but I mean, all this makes
you can
sense.
understand why they're a ghost and clinging to this earth.
But
they've got some shit to deal with.
If that's him writing it, then I just don't know why that's written. And we'll never know.
I feel like you really retold the poem well, though, so well done for that. The author, Saijo, actually passed away on the 12th of August 1970, which was, of course, before the poem was really noticed, so we don't have any records of its purposes. The history of this cursed poem doesn't really make clear as to whether it needs to be read out loud or specifically read out loud in Japanese, so there is still hope for us despite reading together live. We've also shared the poem technically, which should halve the effects. I did show Moonwalker the Japanese though, which wasn't in the version I read, so if it takes seeing the Japanese whilst reading out loud, then you're still heading for trouble, Granville. How do you feel, sir?
My elbow hurts. Like, legit.
It starts in the elbow. Your heart starts racing.
So we've got a picture of Saijo here.
You feeling all right there, sir?
Who knows?
You keel over and die. I call the police. It's irrelevant, but come here.
Did he...
Scrawled out on the floor, Kevin is a prick, Kevin is a prick.
They take my corpse away, start writing the cause of death. Kevin is a prick. And then you're a penis. So did he release any works after that?
Yes, back to his normal self, I believe.
So either he came out of his funk, or he was being channeled whilst he was in a dark, depressive state.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or maybe he had something to get off his chest now that whoever it was had passed.
Maybe, like you said earlier, he's Tomino, and the sad passing in his life just before he wrote it.
What if it's a case of DID?
I didn't see anything on that, but that's also a horrific thought.
In terms of if he went through anything like that, Tomino was the one that went through it, not him. That person passing brought Tomino back, writes that poem, and then slips back to
the non-dominant. I don't have anything to comment either way. That's not something that was in any of the records I could find. I do have just one more fact before I summarise, though. That director actually died about 9 years after producing the film inspired by Tomino's Hell, but let's not dwell on that. In summary, we've covered Tomino's Hell, a poem by Saijo Yaso, written around 1919. Saijo had experienced a significant loss before writing the poem, his 27th work in his 27th year. Saijo was famous for children's works, but the poem was darker than anything seen, and many at the time could not finish the poem. The poem vanished for decades before director Terayama Shuji was inspired by the poem and died 9 years after reading it. From there, the poem was published in a book warning not to read it out loud, and Japanese students, of course, then started filming themselves reading it out loud. That made its way online, and the poem was translated to English, where the practice of public readings continued. Many who read the poem aloud were never heard from again.
So their accounts got deleted.
No, I checked up a lot of the accounts that were mentioned. There's a lot more than I included just for time purposes. But there's loads of like Reddit accounts, Twitter accounts where their last thing is, I read this out loud, and they're just dormant. Nothing's been posted since for like 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. There's loads of them.
Maybe they just didn't want to.
Why would you leave that as your last tweet?
So
I'm going to go onto our Twitter account and be like, I just read Tomino's Hell.
did you then look at their likes?
Yeah, I looked at everything. Genuinely nothing. Last activity. There's loads of them.
I think they're just doing it for... They just started a new account.
I'm bored of this social
Yeah.
media, but I'm going to go out with a bang.
I read Tomino's Hell. Cut off.
Anything you want to double back over before we conclude?
I would just like to state
Yes.
that when you mentioned that he was writing his 27th works,
Yep.
Gold Dust.
Yep.
Gold Dust theme immediately popped into my head.
Me too, and I really want to put it in the podcast, but WWE will have our asses. They do not like their music being shared.
Fuckers.
Like Disney. That episode where we included the gummy bears. Damn you, Walt!
The director died 9 years later,
Yes.
but was he diagnosed before the film or after it?
After. The records, again, because this is older, this isn't hugely clear. I was trying to find out if he was like a raging drinker, for example, and whether that could have contributed, but I'm just not sure, Sam.
So it's possible he could have read the poem and they were like, kidney disease, bitch.
Yeah.
Like that. Little Tomino walked up to him and just went,
Gave him the
kidney punch.
Gave him the poke with the red needle.
And then, kidney disease.
So are you saying that it was a curse?
I am not saying that it was a curse. But within this same breath, I am still not going to read it out loud.
I hate it when you do that.
Just in case.
You got to go one way or the other. None of that.
I'm going
pussyfoot in
one
the middle.
way.
We've already read it now anyway, so I'm not asking you to read it again. But if you say it's not a curse, I'm going to ask you to read it.
It's not a curse. You can play back where I've already read it.
Do you reckon at the points when I've taken it from the past where you said these words, at that moment in the past you became ill? Like little tiny percentages of Tomino's curse hit you?
So essentially what you're saying is you want me dead. Or a member of my family.
Anyway.
Kevin is a prick.
I'm not saying that it was a curse.
But I'm saying Kevin is a prick.
You hopefully know by this point that I love covering dark paranormal tales, and a big part of the reason for that is because Granville often doesn't like them. Granville previously disclosed on an episode that he doesn't mess with curses, and I've known for a long time we'd be covering this curse on Granville's birthday. When it came to reading the poem, I used an old, almost direct and too literal translation of the Japanese, which I enjoyed because it was even more bonkers. The more confusing, the better. But if you want a more sensible English rendering, check out the show notes for a link to David Bowles' 2014 translation. There's lots of little corrections. For example, the bush warbler is a nightingale, but even then it's still dark and disturbing, and I'm not sure which version I prefer. From what I could find, the most popular theories as to what the poem is about include Tomino having killed his family and being on his way to hell literally, and Tomino being on the way to war, or the poem being a metaphor for war. Another suggests that parts are mistranslated and that the original Japanese depicts Tomino as a girl living in an abusive household who wrote down all that pain. As for whether the poem is cursed, that's a tough one because I don't believe in curses, but I kind of wanted to say it was a curse to get Granville on board. I've probably read this poem about 50 times in researching this episode and I'm still fine. Strange and unusual, but fine. I say that. I'll probably go to sleep tonight and wake up on Hell 7 Mountains beside Tomino, poking me with a red needle. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye, Mr. Moonwalker? And as you'll see, I've just included
Look at the size of that neck.
Remember anyone you said this Tomino's 6'5"? I knew that was covered at the end.
That is
There's
a red needle neck.
Yeah, we'll post this, but Tomino looks creepy as shit and has a huge neck. Like an ostrich or something?
Yeah, that is creepy.
A giraffe neck, even.
Ugh.
Now, go back to when that person saw Tomino.
Yeah, but did they
If
know
you
Tomino
saw that in front of you.
But did they know that was Tomino?
Lots of publications of this poem come with this picture. So
But
it's
did
very
the
likely.
original? Or did someone create this picture?
I
That's
couldn't
the thing.
find the original online.
I mean, someone could have just drawn this and said it was Tomino, but it's not Tomino.
Yeah, because obviously the original is in Japanese and I can't read Japanese.
So
I did
Tomino.
try and find pictures, but I could only find certain translations alongside the English. When I was looking at Japanese documents, I couldn't tell what the hell I was looking at, basically.
And if Tomino is a little girl,
Uh-huh.
could just be a little girl in a kimono that turns up. You've got no idea that's Tomino.
Wow.
Fucks you up.
Pokes you with a red needle. Your elbow gets sore.
I mean, you're sitting there expecting this giraffe neck motherfucker to turn up, and it's not.
It's that sweet little child.
Kids are fucking creepy.
On that note, that's a wrap for today. Thank you for listening to But It Was Aliens. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can find us on the Twitter. At But It Was Aliens, or you could look up our private public Facebook group, Extraterrestrial Towers, linked to the But It Was Aliens page on Facebook. Or, if you've enjoyed this more paranormal probe, well, there are a whole bunch of them over at patreon.com/But It Was Aliens, where each month we upload a new probe into paranormal but not alien events. That's today's show dusted. Hopefully Tomino doesn't come for us, so until next time. If you're an atheist, what do you call an act of God? The truth is up there. #proud Tomino. Wah, wah, wah.
Why is there a bottle of tequila? What is this witchcraft?